Well, Palworld is still adding features, even with Nintendo suing them and making them delete features. Fortnite's return to iOS is suspect, and Microsoft announces more layoffs in the wake of other layoffs and everything else going on in the industry. And also, we're talking about Waffle House for some reason, but who doesn't want to talk? Anyway, let's get into game news. Welcome back, everybody, to the Game News Show. Let's jump in to our first story for the night, which is happy 20-year anniversary to Leeroy Jenkins. You want to feel old? Leeroy Jenkins is 20 years old today. Today. This is a Polygon write up on it. I don't know that we need to dive in. I mean, it's 20 years old. It's weird to think about memes more than 10 years old, even. 10 years ago was 2015. My gosh, existential crisis unlocked. Anyway, um, I think it's funny. The WoW is legendary. This meme transcends even WoW. But let's read the article real quick. 20 years ago, the name Leeroy Jenkins rang through the halls of Upper Blackrock Spire, and now it echoes through eternity. On May 11th, 2005, the famous Leeroy video was posted to Warcraft Movies, a website dedicated to World of Warcraft machinima. The video came from a guild called Pals for Life. In it, the guild leader addressed a group in a semi-serious tone, asking, after coming up with a detailed plan, "Can you give me a number crunch real quick?" In response, the apparent number crunching guy laid down the first meme of the video. "I'm coming up with 32.33 repeating, of course, percentage of survival. Don't ever tell Leeroy the odds," because that's when he declared, "Time's up," and delivered a battle cry for the ages. Leeroy Jenkins. We just got a description of the video. We've all seen the video. It's a classic video. It's a wonderful video. But 20 years old. Good lord. All right. Anyway, let's not dwell here much longer. But congrats, Leeroy, for becoming legendary and living on for all eternity. Anyway, let's move on. Palworld announces major update and a Terraria crossover. That was unexpected. Palworld is launching. This is on Insider Gaming, by the way. Josh Challies writes, Palworld is launching another major update for the second summer in a row, this time bringing the world of Terraria into the title in a huge crossover. Palworld made waves after launching in early 2024, though changes have been made amid an ongoing legal battle with Pokemon, and a huge drop of content is still coming this summer. Titled Palworld Tides of Terraria, the big draw is the collaboration with another big title, Terraria, and is an update that can be enjoyed by fans of Palworld and Terraria. Who would have guessed? The announcement also teased the ability to catch, train, fight, and put monsters from the world of Terraria to work, just like Pals, but a question mark at the end of the tease suggests it may not be as straightforward as it seems. And then the article goes on to talk about what's coming. Though it's the Terraria collab that grabs the attention, dedicated Palworld fans are also being treated to more content, including new pals to capture and collect. Pocket Pair says further details will be revealed over Palworld's social media channels in the next few weeks, which may lead to a big reveal at Summer Games Fest, like we saw last year with the Sakurajima update. Though details are scarce, teaser images show a new jellyfish-style pal and an ice seal alongside a character fishing, while another image suggests we will see new variants of Pingullet, seemingly an electric type, and Croagiro, the latter switching the color of the pal from green to blue. Palworld's big update comes after ceding ground in the legal battle with Pokemon, with the most recent update resulting in removing the ability to use pals as gliders. So that's crazy. Cool. I love when indies and I like crossovers anyway, like just in general. I think they're really cool. This is an unexpected one that I hope pays off for Palworld and Terraria. I think that's awesome. So yeah, if you're still playing Palworld, let me know in the comments, but that's wild. Cool stuff. All right, let's move on. Capcom breaks all-time profit records with 10% income growth after Monster Hunter Wilds sold over 10 million copies in a month. This is from Alexander Cope at Windows Central. Capcom announces it has achieved its highest sales and operating income in the company's history during its 2025 fiscal year report. Capcom just announced via its official website and the Game Awards X account that it has achieved high sales figures and operating income records in the company's history within its 24-25 fiscal year reporting, ending on March 31st, 2025. According to the report, Capcom sales were 1.14 billion, up 11.3% year on year. I don't really care too much about that, but I do want to talk about the success, but the numbers themselves are kind of unimportant. This is the 8th consecutive year Capcom has broken sales records, and the 11th consecutive year it has increased its operating profit growth, which is really good for making sure Capcom still gets to make Capcom games. On top of that, Capcom has announced that it has sold over 51.87 million video game units worldwide. This success is largely thanks to Capcom's flagship franchises like Resident Evil, Street Fighter, and of course Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is currently Capcom's biggest franchise, with Monster Hunter World selling over 28.2 million copies, Monster Hunter Rise at 16.7 million, and the latest entry, Monster Hunter Wilds, selling over 10 million copies in just a month after its release, which is super cool for the franchise. If you love Monster Hunter, you're eating good right now, you know? Yeah, I mean, the support is there. They're going to keep content coming. They're going to keep new games coming because that's Capcom's bread and butter. Mega Man fans weep. I feel your pain. After declaring this financial success, Capcom stated, and I quote from its official website, moving forward for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 26, Capcom anticipates net sales of 190 million yen and operating income of 73 million yen, which would result in 9 consecutive years of record high profit at all levels and 11 consecutive years of over 10% operating income growth. In short, things are going well money-wise for Capcom, and the company is confident in its future endeavors. If Capcom's upcoming Xbox titles, upcoming PC titles, like the new Okami and Onimusha Way of the Sword, live up to fans' expectations after being a dormant Capcom IP for so long, then fortune will continue to smile for this legendary studio. Yes, this is great, especially in a time where we hear about layoffs and cancellations and delays and reduction of scope and all the other bad news we get in the gaming industry. Capcom's doing well, and that's really good. I think that speaks to, one, the types of games they've been allowing devs to make, the things they've been pushing. Probably internal culture is pretty solid if people are still working there and enjoying the work they're doing. Everybody should take a look at what they're doing and copy that and do it right, you know? Don't make a big deal out of it. But I think it's awesome. Good for them. Good for the devs, you know, excited. Hey, job security is super important right now. So, sweet. Maybe I should check out Monster Hunter finally. Anyway, let's move on. All right, let's talk about some Fortnite. It's a regular occurrence on this channel. Fortnite Mobile iOS being slow walked by Apple's App Store. This was on May 12th. From Josh Challies over at Insider Gaming, yet again. The long wait for Fortnite Mobile on iOS in the United States is rumbling on despite Apple's data for app reviews indicating the process should have been completed by now. Fortnite Mobile's absence from Apple's App Store came amid an ongoing legal battle between Epic Games and Apple, which was recently filed in Epic Games' favor, although appeals are on the cards that may extend the battle further. In the meantime, Fortnite is free to return to mobiles on iOS, and a launch was expected last week, with it confirmed that the app had been sent to Apple for review on Friday. So this was Friday last week. At the time of this upload, time of this stream, last week on Friday, it was sent to Apple. However, the process is now heading into a fifth day, again, at the time of this recording, despite Apple itself stating 90% of submissions are reviewed in less than 24 hours. So, you know, we were excited. We found out Fortnite was coming back to iOS. That's really good for the game because Fortnite Mobile was really good for Epic and the game itself, I think. Just player counts and everything. But the game should have been released by now. This shouldn't have taken that long unless Apple is intentionally doing some shenanigans, which I think they talk about a little bit in the down below, the rest of this article. So why is Fortnite Mobile still not on iOS? The million-dollar question is now why the process has taken so long. And although cynics will suggest it could be due to Apple feeling sour over the legal process, any response from Apple will likely indicate there's a long list of apps waiting to be reviewed. Another reason for the delay may be due to an issue with the app itself, which could see Apple refuse the upload and fixes required, but there's no indication of this, and given Epic Games' vast experience, there shouldn't be any significant issues, particularly as Fortnite Mobile is already available on iOS and other parts of the world. Hopefully we'll get a definitive outcome soon that will either provide an indication of how much longer the process will take, or we'll finally see the release become available. I will say, if it is Apple just taking their time and intentionally delaying it, I mean, come on, guys. It's childish. But maybe Apple's being a little more thorough to make sure Epic's not doing any other shenanigans they're not supposed to do. Because while Fortnite Mobile is allowed worldwide and not in the US, or I guess in other regions, namely the EU. I believe that's through Epic Games' own store and not through the App Store. So there might be some different rules there. I don't know, but I could see Apple just being extra thorough for this one to make sure they're not up to no good, I guess. Anywho, let's move on to our next topic. Okay, in some disappointing news, Grant Taylor Hill writes, again at Insider Gaming, Apex Legends is expected to decline further over the next few months. Yikes. I just posted about how I've seen a lot of people come back to this game, being hyped for it. People are streaming it, where they moved. The people I knew that streamed it all the time have moved on. I used to stream it a lot way back in the day when it first came out, and then I also moved on. But let's read on. Apex Legends is one of the most stalwart battle royale titles on the market, but it's weathering a rough patch right now. In a recent financial update, Electronic Arts revealed that it is anticipating a massive drop in net bookings for the shooter in fiscal year 26, which presents a huge concern for the platform. For a while, Apex Legends represented the pinnacle of live service battle royale titles, but it has suffered from a fall from grace in recent months that is leading to a cultural shift. I want to say that fall from grace was a longer time ago, not just a few months. We're talking 2024, 2023, end of 23. The game was in a rough spot. It felt weird. Everything was awkward. So it's been more than a few months. Not so legendary. Titanfall universe is in a weird spot at the moment. It was revealed a few days back that layoffs at Respawn and EA went hand in hand with the cancellation of a new Titanfall title, an extraction shooter, if you can believe that. Apex Legends is the only living game connected to the Titanfall universe, which has been sorely misrepresented in recent years. It has been almost a decade since Titanfall 2 was released, and players are hungry for more, but Respawn can't or won't deliver. In a recent financial update, Electronic Arts confirmed that they anticipate a 40% year-over-year decline in net bookings for Apex Legends, which indicates plummeting expectations. In the last year, Apex Legends faced a considerable decline, and things aren't looking better going forward. The brand is facing intense pressure to deliver, and it's more important for Apex Legends to recover as the company's put a lot of eggs in that basket over the years. It was mentioned a while ago that Electronic Arts wanted to keep Apex Legends around for 20 years total. It's not even halfway through that endeavor as I write this. So then they pose the valid question, do you think Apex Legends is in a rough spot right now? I think so, though I did fire up a match today during a lunch break at work, and it was a fun time. New characters, pretty cool. I had fun. Will I come back to the game in the way that I used to play it? Probably not. But if they can, and this is the challenge for, I guess, any shooter right now, but if they can handle cheaters and people using, just any advantage that isn't the game itself, maybe that will help. Also just fixing long-standing issues like the audio that I still see people complaining about. Now, I haven't played the game very deeply in some months or years even at this point, but if they're still complaining about audio issues, hey, maybe investigate that. Maybe do some more crossover events. That Final Fantasy event was super awesome last year, made me play the game for a little bit. If that were to, something like that were to come back, that would be awesome. So I don't know what they can do, though. The game's been around for a while. It's had its fair share of problems. They keep making balance changes and other changes that disappoint players and then attract new players for a little while, but it doesn't seem to stick. So I don't know. What do you guys think they should do? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, let's move on. In more bad news, Microsoft announces plans to lay off thousands more workers. 3% of employees across all departments will be laid off, the company says. This is on VGC. Chris Scullion writes for us. Microsoft has announced that it will be laying off 3% of its total staff. Layoffs will take place across all levels, teams, and locations, according to a CNBC report, suggesting that Microsoft's gaming division may be affected to some extent. According to the report, Microsoft had around 228,000 employees by end of last June, which would mean laying off 6,840 employees, though it's not currently known if the employee count has risen or fallen since then. In a statement to CNBC, a Microsoft spokesperson said that one of the objectives of the layoffs was to reduce layers of management, saying we continue to implement organizational changes necessary to best position the company for success in a dynamic marketplace. That's corporate speak for there's too many managers. This would be the largest mass layoff at Microsoft since January 23, when the company confirmed plans to lay off around 4.5% of its workforce, around 10,000 employees. The 2023 round of layoffs affected Microsoft's video game division across both Xbox and Bethesda, with a reported significant number of layoffs at 343 Industries, the studio behind Halo Infinite, Microsoft's HoloLens business, and some engineering divisions were also reportedly part of those cuts. This was followed by a games-specific round of layoffs in January 24, where Microsoft announced it was cutting 1,900 staff across Xbox, Bethesda, and its then newly acquired Activision Blizzard. Which, again, it's like every year we see more people disappearing. According to a message sent to staff at the time by Microsoft head of gaming Phil Spencer, the decision had been made after Microsoft and Activision Blizzard's leadership teams set priorities, identified areas of overlap, and ensured that we're all aligned on the best opportunities for growth. Spencer said in the email to staff, as we move forward, and this was from 2023, this isn't like the current thing, as we move forward in 24, the leadership of Microsoft Gaming and Activision Blizzard is committed to aligning on a strategy and an execution plan with a sustainable cost structure that will support the whole of our growing business. Together, we've set priorities, identified areas of overlap, and ensured we're all aligned on the best opportunities for growth. Why did we repeat this? Okay. Made me sound foolish. Anyway, as part of this process, we have made the painful decision to reduce the size of our gaming workforce. This is last year. Okay. Not yet clear how many staff Microsoft's gaming division will be affected by the company's newly announced 3% layoffs, which we already said. The whole half of this article is completely waste of words. You had to hit that word count. I get it. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude. But this, I don't know. This is just like more bad news. Does this affect gaming? Not directly, but it could. It's just, the reason I bring this up in the game news show is because Microsoft just announced price hikes across the board for Xbox stuff. Hardware, accessories, game prices are also going up. So seeing layoffs come after prices have gone up, the math don't math, because the prices are supposed to offset some of that, and it looks like they can't make ends meet. Now, because this is like the entirety of Microsoft, there are other things at play that have nothing to do with gaming, and I wouldn't even know where to begin to talk about. But weird time, and unfortunate for everybody affected. So yeah, keep your eye on that. We'll see what comes of that. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. All right, I forgot this game existed. Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra has been delayed to 2026. Chris Scullion writes again over at VGC. Amy Hennig's Marvel game was planned for a 2025 release. I really forgot about this game, and I was just thinking, like, isn't there a Marvel game coming out soon? And now there isn't. It's been delayed. Rise of Hydra has been delayed to next year, the game's publishers announced. In a statement posted on X, Skydance Games said the game, which was previously set to release in 2025, will now come out early next year instead. We have an important update, the post reads. Marvel Rise of Hydra will now be launching in early 2026. That's the announcement. Taking this additional time will allow us to add more polish and make sure we give you the best possible experience, and one that lives up to our vision. We have some exciting things in store and look forward to sharing more soon. I really hope that they mean that. I mean, the game looked cool. The premise seems neat. I'm interested, you know. So I'm hoping this delay is what they need. But I'm telling you, if I forgot about it, I ain't the only one to have forgot about it. So this brings it back into our, like, the social consciousness for a bit, but not in a good light. But I understand a delay, right? Let's see, the game was first revealed in March 2024 during an Unreal Engine showcase at the Game Developers Conference. The game, which stars Drew Moerlin as Captain America and Carrie Payton as Black Panther, is the latest adventure from Amy Hennig, the writer and creative director of the first 3 Uncharted games. Which is cool. I mean, you know, delays happen. They probably needed more time. I think it's better to delay than rush out a product that everybody's going to hate. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly last December, Hennig said the game's 1943 setting allowed her and the rest of the game's development team to do a bunch of interesting things. One of which was not only to tell a story with young Steve Rogers, who's still trying to find his feet, as opposed to a more seasoned guy we've seen in a lot of the films. It also let us introduce a new Black Panther of 1943. It led us to tap into all the things that I love, all the wonderful tropes of World War II era adventure films, classic men on a mission movies, and all of that. There's a lot of intrigue in our story, a lot of twists and turns, fascinating characters, and interesting locations. According to the official plot synopsis for Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra, in the chaos of war, worlds collide. Captain America and Azuri, the Black Panther of the 1940s, must overcome their differences and form an uneasy alliance to confront their common enemy. Fighting alongside Gabriel Jones of the Howling Commandos and Nanali, a Wakandan spy embedded in occupied Paris, they must join forces to stop a sinister plot that threatens to turn the havoc of World War II into the ultimate rise of Hydra. Game sounds awesome. I'm hoping to check it out when it launches. Now we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer, which is fine. There's plenty to play. My backlog does need attention. Somebody help me. All right, anyway, let's move on. Where are we at on our list here? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's move on. All right, let's talk about the Steam Deck. Sam Sepiol on Insider Gaming writes for us, Steam Deck verification will extend to SteamOS devices through compatibility ratings. So this comes along at a time where the Steam Deck is, or the SteamOS is being licensed out to work on non-Steam Deck devices, which is cool. Steam has announced a new compatibility rating system for SteamOS devices, extending the Steam Deck verified process. SteamOS compatibility ratings announced. As detailed in a community blog post, the SteamOS compatibility system is based on a subset of testing results from the Steam Deck compatibility assessments. It will be used as a tool to indicate whether a game and its associated middleware are compatible with SteamOS devices. The compatibility system evaluates several aspects, including game functionality, launcher functionality, and support for anti-cheat measures. SteamOS compatibility ratings do not take into account performance or input results. If a game and all its middleware is supported on SteamOS, it will be labeled as SteamOS compatible. Conversely, if it is incompatible, it will be marked as SteamOS unsupported. The ratings will be released in the coming weeks, and Steam has confirmed that over 18,000 titles will be marked as SteamOS compatible from the start. So this is cool. This will sit alongside Steam Deck verified. So if you've got, was it the Lenovo Legion, or MS? I don't know who's got it. What is the device? The Lenovo Legion Go S, which would be the only device to really need this information. You'll see this badge, SteamOS compatibility. It'll check it, and you'll know that it'll work on SteamOS devices instead of just Steam Deck verified. It's an important rating. It's very minor. I don't know that I'm going to read the rest of this article because this is kind of straightforward with the screenshot. But it's really important because as more and more devices hopefully start coming out that run SteamOS, which right now we have one that we know of that is coming. I assume there would be others. Hopefully, competition's great. And if that happens, when that happens, this badge will probably be more important than the Steam Deck verified badge for most people. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Yeah, I'm not going to read on the rest of the article. I think it's cool. It's a good idea. Good to know. All right, let's move on. Maybe. Here we go. All right. Hogwarts Legacy on Switch 2 appears to have a $10 upgrade for owners of the digital Switch version. Players can also currently take advantage of a sale to get the Switch 2 version for $28. This is from Chris Scullion over at VGC. Man, we just got like the same authors in our articles this week. All right, cool. Owners of the Switch version of Hogwarts Legacy may be able to upgrade to the Switch 2 version for $10. Players have been reporting if you own the digital version of Hogwarts Legacy on Switch, when you access the eShop listing for the Switch 2 version, it will be listed for $10 instead of the usual $60. Others are reporting that if players buy the DLC for the Switch version, this will unlock the ability to upgrade to the digital deluxe edition for $15 instead of $70. The original Switch version is also currently on sale on the US eShop for $17.99 until May 19th, meaning players who don't already have the Switch version in their library can theoretically get the Switch 2 version for $27.99, less than half the price. The Switch sale isn't active in all regions. It's full price in the UK, for example, so players in those regions will have to use a separate account to access the US eShop and buy the Switch version for $17.99 there. Yeah, that's a lot of work. If it's not supported in your region, just wait for a sale or something. Warner Bros. Has yet to officially announce any Switch 2 upgrade offer for the Switch version. So assuming this isn't an error, it's possible that it's gone live on the eShop earlier than expected, or that Warner Bros. Is waiting for the discount on the Switch version to lift on May 19th before making the announcement. While Nintendo has already announced that a number of existing Switch games will get Switch 2 editions, which are sold separately or as a paid upgrade, this is one of the first examples of a third-party publisher enabling owners of a Switch game to upgrade it to a Switch 2 version. And that's why I included it here, because I'm hoping that this is the first of many titles that have a Switch 1 version that are getting a better, more premium experience on the Switch 2, do get an upgrade path, especially if you already bought the digital version. Like, it's a DLC upgrade. It's a $10 upgrade. We've seen it on the PS4 games on PS5. Some Xbox One games automatically do smart delivery, and you get the Xbox Series X or S version when you play that game on the newer Xbox hardware. However, some publishers still do separate versions for Series X and S that cost full price, so you don't get to upgrade from. And so, I'm hoping this is like the norm though, because this makes moving to the new hardware more appealing. Because sure, you could play your Switch 1 version of Hogwarts Legacy and it can look like an old PS2 game, or you can get the upgrade and it can look like a PS4 game, maybe PS4 Pro, right? Is that what we're saying the graphics are? Anyway, let's read on. Last week, Deltarune developer Toby Fox announced that players who buy the digital Switch version of the game will get Switch 2 version 2 at no added cost, and vice versa, essentially meaning that buying one version will add both versions to their library. Nintendo has already confirmed Switch 2 editions for Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Party Jamboree, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and Pokemon Legends ZA. Each upgrade will vary in price, with the Switch 2 upgrades for Zelda games costing $10 each, and the upgrades for Kirby and Mario Party costing $20. Players subscribed to Switch Online plus Expansion Pack will get the Switch 2 upgrades for Zelda games as part of their subscription, which we knew going in. I just think this is important because, again, making it easier to move to the new hardware is key for, especially with the messaging around the Switch and everything's more expensive, at least the Switch 2 side anyway. If you want people to upgrade, you got to get third parties on board with this kind of transition. And if it's up to the developers and publishers to make those kinds of offers available, encourage that. Please, Nintendo, you've got to encourage it because it'll make people want to move sooner. Hey, it's only $10 for the Switch 2 version of this game that I already bought. I'm not really entitled to an upgrade, but for $10, I mean, hey, that's easy for some people. I'm not saying it's the best solution, but it's better than, oh well, you got to buy the $60 version. $10 upgrades the way to go. All right, let's move on. All right, speaking of the Switch, 8 years in, Nintendo president admits Switch 1 just isn't powerful enough for new gameplay experiences, so it's time to move on to a new standard with Switch 2. This is on Games Radar from Scott McRae. We believe Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza offer new gameplay experiences that could not be realized on Nintendo Switch. Alright, now we're on the article. The Switch 2 has been highly anticipated for years now, and while the Nintendo Direct only furthered everyone's excitement, that's a weird sentence. Okay, only furthered everyone's excitement, but one of the biggest complaints about the system, outside of the pricing obviously, was its perceived lack of innovation, something that's now been addressed by company president Shuntaro Furukawa. Every Nintendo system since the DS has had some form of central gimmick or innovation, with the likes of the Wiimote, the Wii U gamepad, or just the general concept of the Switch. Switch 2, however, represents the first time since the GameCube that Nintendo has mainly just made a console, but it's better. I would argue that the GameCube moving to DVDs, being a tiny form factor, and being more like its competition was a significant shift in and of itself. It wasn't just a game console. It was a lot better. I don't know. Is that just me? This was a question given to Furukawa during a Q&A with investors after Nintendo's recent financial report. When asked if the Switch 2's lack of a major overhaul like previous Nintendo consoles positions the Switch 2 as a stopgap between the Switch and a new system, Furukawa says that the biggest reason to move on from the Switch was in service to the games. Over the course of these 8 years and counting, it has become necessary to increase hardware processing performance in order for software developers to realize one of Nintendo's most valued tenets, offering new gameplay experiences. Thus, this time we decided to design the hardware with enhanced processing capability. We believe Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza offer new gameplay experiences that could not be realized on Nintendo Switch. Presumably, he could be referring to Mario Kart World's open world and Bonanza's terrain deformation. I mean, it's very true. He could be referring to that. That's likely what he's referring to. I also think just graphical fidelity demands have gone up, and we've seen increasingly third-party games on Switch 1 just need a lot of work to get them functional. Going forward, we'll develop a variety of new titles centered on Switch 2 and offer new gameplay experiences. We aim to make Nintendo Switch 2 the new standard for Nintendo Switch as hardware that continues to provide fresh surprises to our consumers. So, that's not like anything too controversial except admitting, hey, Switch 1, it's time to upgrade from. Eventually Microsoft will have to stop supporting the Xbox One. PlayStation will have to stop supporting the PS4 because those games, newer games, won't be able to run on it. We've already seen a lot of games not release on those systems, but I'm even talking about like existing stuff like Fortnite will eventually stop being updated on the Xbox One and PS4 consoles. It'll eventually stop being updated on the Switch 1 probably sooner. Overwatch 2 is in the same situation. Like all of these free-to-play cross-generational games that look really good on the newest hardware eventually will have to be moved up. The hardware gets too old. You can't do everything anymore. That's just how it works in this space. So yeah, that's where that is. Anyway, I don't know. It's not like a big controversial statement, or it shouldn't be. It's just nice to know Nintendo acknowledging. Nice to see Nintendo officially acknowledging, hey, our hardware, 8 years in, it's a little weak. We got to make better hardware. It just has to happen. So good on that. All right, let's move on. Speaking of the Nintendo president reiterates U.S. tariffs did not affect Switch 2 price. This is from GamesIndustry.biz, from Sophie McAvoy. Nintendo president Shuntaro Furukawa has made it clear that the U.S. tariffs did not factor into the Switch 2's higher price point. In an earnings call, QA, published yesterday, Furukawa said the $499 price was determined by manufacturing costs, consumer impressions, market conditions, and exchange rates. For software, in addition to the same factors, we also take into account rises in cost due to aspects such as increased game file size and extended development periods when determining price, he said. Going forward, we will continue to consider appropriate prices for each title when it comes to software prices. Hardware involves special factors such as tariffs, and we will take into account factors like those we just described while conducting careful and repeated deliberations when determining price. Speaking of tariffs, Furukawa explained why they did not affect the base price of the Switch 2. Our basic policy is that for any country or region, if tariffs are imposed, we recognize them as part of the cost and incorporate them into the price. However, this year marks our first new dedicated video game system launch in 8 years, so given our unique situation, our priority is to maintain the momentum of our platforms, which is extremely important for our dedicated video game platform business. Consequently, if the assumptions on tariffs change, we will consider what kind of price adjustments will be appropriate, taking into account various factors such as the market conditions. The higher price of the Switch 2 also factored into the firm's sales forecast for the console, as highlighted in its financial results for the full year. It expects hardware sales of 15 million and software sales of 45 million. All stuff we've seen or talked about elsewhere. Furukawa said 15 million figure was set in an attempt to meet the same level of sales as the Switch did in its first 10 months of sale, that being between March 2017 and December 2017, which was 10 million units. Switch 2 is priced relatively high compared to the Switch, so we recognize that there are corresponding challenges to early adoption. That being said, Switch 2 can play compatible Switch software, so there is continuity between the platforms, which I think will help a lot of people move much more than what we were talking about earlier with like games getting dedicated upgrades. Just being able to keep my library going forward means an upgrade makes perfect sense. We're taking steps like building software with the hardware to accelerate adoption in the first fiscal year, aiming to get off to the same start we did with the Switch. Going forward, let's see. It's like this picture and then words and then what's the article and what's not. Okay, last month, Nintendo of America president Doug Bowser said longevity was also a factor for the Switch 2's higher price point. We want to make sure that this is a device that is approachable, that consumers will see as part of their overall entertainment experience and will understand that it has longevity to it, Bowser said. And all of those factors really go into the consideration of the price. Furukawa emphasized that its hardware production capacity did not affect its forecast, and neither did the tariff situation in the US or a possibility of a recession. And there we finally get to it. In order to achieve sales of 50 million units, we'll need to manufacture the hardware in quantities greater than that, he reiterated. Our first goal is to set off the same start we did with the Switch, and we are working to strengthen our production capacity so we can respond flexibly to demand. And I think that's really like the point of the article there is, hey, we have to meet sales targets. The tariffs didn't affect it as much as everybody wanted to assume it did, but they had to like consider it. They had to look at what was going on. I appreciate them taking the time to answer the question bluntly, and not necessarily bluntly, but at least to be open enough to answer it. So that's cool. Anyway. Nice. So the console is just expensive because hardware is expensive. It's not necessarily tariff related yet. Hopefully not at all, but yet. All right, anyway, let's move on to our last article. Let's talk about Waffle House and Tekken. You guys remember this? This was last year, I believe, or earlier this year. Tekken boss wants to add an official Waffle House stage, but says it's ignoring his calls. Oh, excuse me. Chris Scullion writes at VGC. Katsuhiro Harada says the game may get an unofficial Hustle House tribute stage instead. Tekken series producer Katsuhiro Harada says he wants to add a stage inspired by Waffle House, but the US restaurant chain is ignoring his collaboration request. Last year, Harada took to X to ask his followers why so many of them were asking him to add a Tekken stage set in a Waffle House. Players explained that Waffle House has become something of a meme due to its numerous viral videos of fights taking place in its restaurants, sometimes involving staff. One video in particular shows a customer throwing a chair at a worker who's able to block it midair and throw it to one side, a move that led to numerous memes compare it to a fighting game. Harada himself has commented on it, calling it an excellent parry. A year later, Harada has updated players on the situation, as spotted by Automaton, saying he's been trying his best to contact Waffle House for a potential collaboration, but they aren't replying to his requests. To be honest, within the bounds of what I can say, I fully understand your guys' request. That's precisely why I considered taking on this challenge, Harada wrote. In fact, I had already been thinking about it a while ago. Over the past year or more, I've actually tried to make contact through several different channels. However, and this is purely my own speculation, I suspect that the lack of response may be due to the fact that the project I'm known for revolves around fighting-themed video games. By the way, no response equals very rare case. So then he posts on X, if we can't get that house name license, how about we call it Hustle House? Does it make sense to everyone? Harada suggested to players that a compromise could be found by creating a stage based on a restaurant similar to Waffle House, but with a different name, such as Harada's suggestion of Hustle House. If using a different name or format is acceptable as long as the core message is maintained, I'd be willing to seriously reconsider and explore this again, he explained. Harada drew attention in February when he criticized the fan, and people like them for complaining. Okay, anyway, that has nothing to do here. I would like to see a Waffle House stage in a fighting game. I don't play Tekken. I'm bad at fighting games, just in general. But I would love to see a Waffle House stage. I think it would be hilarious and just culturally aware and fun, and it would be legendary for them to do. And with that, that's it for the game news. So what'd you guys think? Let me know down in the comments what you think of any of these stories or anything else that we talked about. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy it. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, thank you so much. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the like button, hit the dislike button. Just let me know what you think of game news in general. We've had some interesting comments lately. I appreciate the engagement. But anyway, that's it for this week's coverage. Let's hope the next 7 days are a little more interesting. Who knows? Anyway, I'm out. Going to support my daughter at softball. Love you guys. Have a great night. And that does it.